All right, greetings, friends. My name is David Elden. This is an exciting experience for me because it is not often that I look out on a room and see this many new faces. So this is an exciting time for me. If you have not worked with or met me before, I am the author of the blog Judging for the Win. I am also the head of the Judge Conferences project in the Great Lakes this year. So all of these judge conferences, I am very interested in any feedback or any suggestions or ideas you have about what you think worked or didn't work. Hopefully some of you applied to the one that we have in Columbus. After that closed just a couple of days ago. So hope to see a lot of you in the judge conferences that we're going to be doing in the future. So with that, I am going to be talking today about your first big event. So when I say tournament in this presentation, we'll get like some definitions out of the way. When I say tournament today, what I mean is like a big tournament. FNMs and game days and pre-release kind of stuff, that all is a tournament, but that's not what I'm going to be talking about because y'all should probably have enough experience with that without me needing to tell you anything. So who here has been to like an SCG or a GP level tournament before? All right, everyone except me. Awesome. So it looks like most of you have at least been to one of these events. Have you all been on staff as a judge or been to play in them? Both. So a lot of this stuff is going to be stuff that you probably already have at least encountered before, and that's great. So hopefully if there are any questions, I've been to one or two of these myself, so if I gloss over something, or if I don't give something the coverage you were hoping, please raise your hand and I can talk about it in more detail. So the first thing, before anything else, is going to be getting staffed. Now, I assume all of you know how Judge Apps works, based on the fact that in order to be here today, you would have had to go on Judge Apps and fill out an application. So that's pretty simple. That's going to be pretty much any event you work, and I am just in awe of how well that system works. It really is incredible. I was not a judge in the time before Judge Apps existed, but I can only imagine it was a lot less smooth and a lot less seamless than what the situation is right now. So it is really nice. Get on, you fill out the letter. Some organizers like SCG, they'll have an extra Google form that you also have to fill out. And so you fill out all the forms and then you put your stuff in. I have some links to some articles you can write about how to write more appealing cover letters to increase your chances of getting staffed. That's kind of outside the scope of this presentation though. So I'll refer you to those links. So you got staffed. Great. Excellent. Everybody's excited. You get to go judge some Magic. Everybody loves judging Magic. The next thing you're going to want to do is do some prep work. And so for prep work, there are a few specific areas that I think it's important to look at specifically. And the first and most important one, I think, is rules and policy knowledge. So if you are going to a GP or an SCG event or a big important tournament, that's going to be a competitive route, right? So you know that at FNM, the rules are a little bit different than what the fixes and the penalties are at a competitive event. And so that's going to be probably, I think, the biggest, most significant difference for you in your acting as a judge is going to be that you move from regular rel to store level to a competitive rel event. And so as a result of that, you want to make sure your knowledge is up on the most important topics that you're going to want to see. Those topics are probably going to be looking at extra cards, hidden card error, game rule violation, and if you're on the deck checks team, then it's also going to include deck problem and deck list problem. So get on the IPG and read those specific sections is going to be the most significant ones. There's also online there are many resources that you can use to learn more about those topics, and so if you want to get really prepared, I'd recommend reading up a little bit on those as well. So that's the first thing. I might be slightly biased putting that first because rules and policy knowledge is very important to me personally. But I think that's probably also going to be one of the more significant things. Yes, Rick, question?
Well, no, on that, that is one of the most important things that I do because, like we saw this weekend, there's always there's almost always a rules change or things that are happening and being upgraded or moved or problems that fixes that are being changed, and you don't want to be.
Shout out to the new set digests.
Yeah.
Be sure to read those.
Yes, those are always the ones that I look at first to see, okay, what changed between the last time I went to an event and this time I went to an event.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Any other comments or questions on preparing rules and policy wise for going to these events?
Once that you listed, would you be able to contact you and just get that list from you?
Oh, this presentation is going up on the internet, so I'll post a
Okay,
link
cool.
to the presentation on the forum for this conference. Any other questions or comments? All right, excellent. The next prep work thing that you're going to need to do is look on the forums for the event. So almost always for these big events, there's going to be multiple posts in the forum that talk about what all the different expectations are going to be. And the reason they do this is because there is a concerted effort to put judges who are new to this stuff on staff for these events. And as a result of that, they know that they can't just expect that everybody is going to be on the same page without explicitly saying what page that's supposed to be. So in the forums for these events, there's always going to be a post. Usually the head judge will have one, and then if you're on the side events team, there will be a specific side events one that's only for those that information. And so all of these forum posts are things that you should read if there's any doubts about what your responsibilities are going to be. That should clear it up. And if it doesn't, then I recommend a direct message to the person who wrote that forum post with any questions or concerns you might have at that time. So that is phase 2 of preparation, rules and policy study, and making sure you're understanding what your responsibilities are going to be from the forum posts. And those are the biggest and most time-consuming prep steps that you're going to need to do. So, any questions about either of those areas? No? Alright, excellent. The next thing you're going to want to do is prepare your equipment. As a judge, you're going to have a lot of tools that you use to help you do your job. The first and most prominent among those is the judge uniform. So if it is your first time at a GP, there will be a forum post that says if you don't have a judge shirt, fill out this form here and we will get a judge shirt for you. GPs are how you get your judge shirts in the large majority of cases. And so that is something that you are definitely going to want to pick up because
that's changing right now, right?
Yeah, it's my understanding that they are redesigning the judge shirt. So, but at the same time, they're still, they're not going to say, hey, don't get a judge shirt if it's right before they redesign it. Because you still need one for the tournaments that you're actually going to be on staff. So yeah, great observation there. So the judge shirt is like the biggest and most prominent part of your uniform. If it is a Star City Games event, Star City Games provides their own shirts for all of the judges to wear, which is kind of nice. So you don't need to worry about that. If you are going to a significant tournament, like a tournament that would have a judge apps page and a tournament that would be run at competitive rel and would have multiple judges on it, they will probably have some sort of a provision for judges who don't have a uniform and who won't be able to secure one. Whether that'll be like some additional judge uniform shirts that they'll have on site, or whether that'll be just telling everybody to make sure you wear like a dark Oxford shirt that buttons down, or perhaps they'd be comfortable wearing something like this, or one of the Great Lakes judge polos. That's something that you'll want to be sure to be on top of. Other than that, the judge uniform is all black everything, and with specific emphasis on making sure that you have a dark undershirt, which will look a lot better with your judge shirt than a lighter colored undershirt will. So that's pretty much how it works. You get your black shoes and your black slacks and your black socks and your black belt, and you get all that stuff laid out the night ahead of time, so you're not trying to find it all when it's dark before you go out.
See, that's why.
Not that that's ever happened to anyone. Any questions about the judge uniform or getting that squared away? All right, excellent. So other important things to bring, and this is stuff that I always bring, The red pen, red pens, plural, is a good mantra to have. Well, 5 is kind of a lot, but I always have at least 2 ready to go. The good news is, if you're going to a judge event where there's going to be multiple judges, there's probably going to be someone like Rick who has 5 that you can bum one off of. But you know, why take that chance, right? You can just put it in. So the red pen, anytime you write something that's related to your duties as a judge, whether that's going to be a penalty or a time extension, and we'll talk more about those in the future of this presentation, or even some sort of a note that you want to write down for the scorekeeper. The red pen is the best tool to use in those cases because it stands out more, and it immediately, by its color, shows people that the writing that they're reading is related to judging instead of being related to something that a player wrote down or that someone just scratched paper for. So that's the purpose of the red pen, is that it stands out the most, and it makes sure that everybody understands the significance of what you wrote. So that's the first thing that you want to make sure you put in your survival kit. That's what I like to call it, the survival kit in the car. A notebook is another great thing to bring along. So numerous times throughout the day, there's going to be something that you need to write down, and so you bring your notebook so you can have a spot to write all that stuff down that's convenient. Some examples of things like that would be, hey, judge, I'm at table, and then they say their table number, and I'm going to the bathroom, so, you know, if I show up late, then be sure to not give me a game loss. So now you can just write down their table number, and you don't have to worry about trying to remember it. It's so beautiful. Other important things would be things that your team leader tells you to do. So halfway through the round, I'm going to need you to do this set of tasks, and you can write down that set of tasks if they have something that's so complicated that you don't want to take a chance remembering. If you observe people doing interesting or noteworthy things throughout the event, writing down those observations is a great way to get yourself a review. Who here has put a review into Judge apps? So much fewer than the number of people who have gone to a big event. And so usually that's kind of I'll say that it's something that it's not expected that you do, but it's a good idea for you to do, because writing down your observations and sharing them with other people helps them improve, and it also helps you improve too, because you will have a baseline of what somebody else is doing that you can help you pattern your own behavior after. And so it's like learning from their experience. It's really excellent. So writing down those types of observations in the notebook, because you will not be able to remember all of it at the end of the day. That's just not going to happen. I can tell you that also from personal experience. Another thing you might want to bring is pens that are not red. The reason for this is because if you have 2 different colors of pens, it can make your note-taking more effective. You can give the pens out to people who don't have them. Not that that's ever happened, that a player has gone to a Magic tournament and didn't bring a pen with them. Or you can also have stuff that you can write down, even if you know that it's not going to be important or judge-related. That way people aren't looking at stuff you wrote and thinking it's going to be judge-related, and then it ends up not being. A water bottle. Water bottles are very important. So great, because if you are a judge and you're judging an entire tournament without a water bottle, you're basically playing on hard mode. It really is difficult, because there's no way you can get through an entire tournament without needing a drink. Don't do that. Don't try to do that. But it's also very unlikely that the place that you're going to get a drink is going to be a convenient place for you to go to. So if you have the water bottle, then that means you just take a drink every time you get thirsty, and you're good. But if you don't have a water bottle, then you got to go over to the water fountain and then come all the way back, and you got to do that multiple times throughout the day. And it's a big hassle, so you don't want to do that. Bring a water bottle. Some tournament organizers will hand out water bottles as part of the event. Others won't. My advice to you is to bring your own every time and be pleasantly surprised. This one here I've had since the top was still attached to it, and I like bringing it. I was really heartbroken when I lost it. Losing a water bottle is like losing a close friend. So even though I have probably about a half a dozen of them, when I left my GP Vegas water bottle behind it at PP2Q, that was a sad day. I'm still mourning that one. When I dropped this one and broke the cap on it, that was a sad day. So, take care of your stuff, I guess, is the lesson that I have. Oracle app. Who here is a Android user? Alright, who here is an iPhone user? Great. Now, I know there's a lot of arguments about which is better, Android or iPhone, but when it comes to judge apps, there is an objective answer, which is that Android is much better because both of the Android Oracle apps are free. You can get Guide and you can get MTG Familiar both for free. MTG Guide is not free. Guide costs like what, $8? $5? Yeah. $6 now.
Wow.
High rollers, friends. So yeah, whatever the situation is going to be, you will really want to have an app like that. Who here does not have one of the Magic Judge apps installed on their phone right now? Alright, well if you're an Android person, get online and download it today because you really, it is a quality of life thing of epic proportions. So, remember when I was talking about judging before judge apps existed? There was a time before smartphones existed, and when someone needed the Oracle text for a card, they had to go to the front and read it in a book because they had a binder with all the cards in that format printed out. That's what we had to do in the old days. It was a dark time. So now, you just pull your phone out and you type the card name in and you pull it up, and it's great. Sophisticated judge apps, any reasonable one, Guide, or Familiar, or any alternative to those that you might have access to. Any of those is going to have some other alternate features that are going to be helpful to you, such as Brown's timer, or something with the comprehensive rules, or the MTR and the IPG in it. Those alternate features are very helpful in doing your functioning as a floor judge also. So definitely, drop the $5 or the $6 or whatever if you're an Android user. It'll be worth it. It's definitely worth it if you're an Android user. You get it for free. So even as an iPhone user, definitely get it now because you will use it and you'll use it a lot. And then finally, the last recommendation that I have for you, this is something I bring to every tournament. This is not strictly required, but I think it helps a lot. So you've got this Sharpie. Now the Sharpie has a number of really important and useful purposes. The first and biggest one is that if they have water bottles for you, if the tournament organizer is providing bottles of water, all of the judges are going to have their own bottle of water, and all of them are going to look the same because they all came out of the same package. But yours will not look the same. Yours will have your initials written on the top in Sharpie, and hopefully that will dissuade other people from drinking your water bottles. So if that's important to you, that's an important reason to bring a Sharpie. Another good thing that they are for is in side event land, because if you launch a side event that has a specific number of rounds, you'll need to communicate to your players what time the round starts and ends and what round number it is. And if you write in Sharpie, it will be approximately 1,000 times easier for everybody to see than if you write it in pen. Field tested, it is way better. A secret technology that I can share with all of you here is don't write like this, like a normal writing. If you shade the letters in and have them be like with a thickness to them, you can read it from much farther away, and that makes it a lot easier for everybody to see without having to ask you to read it and tell them what it is, which saves you a lot of time and effort. So that is the Judge Survival Kit. Does anybody have any questions or comments on any of the items that I listed? Or does anybody have any suggestions for items that you think would be a good idea?
Maybe bring a granola bar or energy bar or something like that.
You know, I thought Rick was trying to do that. That was very excellent. He likes the combos, I guess.
Yeah, I like having a small, concise bag, not something big. I know a lot of judges bring like big bags.
Yeah.
You always want to carry something to carry your swag if you get swag from the TO.
Yeah.
Carry your granola bars, your drinks. The other thing for your kit is bring at least 2 chargers. At least 2 cords for your chargers, a minimum of 2. Because half the time you will leave one in either your hotel room or you'll lose it.
Yeah, that's very important. If you've ever seen people with the external batteries, that's another really nice thing to have. I wouldn't say it's a necessity because if you're using your phone at a reasonable amount, then you probably should have enough battery to last you the entire day. But if there's even a chance that might not happen, you definitely should consider the value of one of those portable batteries.
Or find Wiz.
Yeah, or find Wiz, or like ask really nicely at the storekeeper station with a charger. Any other questions or comments on it?
Okay, this is going to sound insane, but judges have done this before. Please make sure and secure your travel and lodging arrangements before you go to any major tournament. There's been multiple occasions where a person got sick, I cannot get to the tournament. That's not what you want to be doing when you're being a judge. Be professional, make sure your travel arrangements are secure. Also, I don't have anywhere to stay on a multi-day event. Not a good thing to happen either. Make sure both of those are locked down.
That may have happened at the first GP that I went to. Thanks, Sherman. Thanks. Shout out to Sherman.
That may have happened on almost every GP.
It happens to
It happens
everyone.
to someone every time.
Just don't plan on, oh, I'll just find a hotel and I'll just sleep on someone's floor. Don't just plan on having no plan.
Yeah.
Have a plan. Stuff will happen and will fall through the cracks. Yes,
It sure
unfortunate
will.
life does happen. But don't plan on doing that. That's not a good way to go into an event.
Your car is not a hotel.
Oh gosh. Learned that one the hard way. Alright, let's
Just on the iPhone note for like rules references, if you open up the PDF for the IPG, whatever, in the browser, if you hit the export button and you download the iBooks for full offline access, everything's pre-cached and all that. Yeah, so that's what I do.
Comfortable shoes.
Yeah, comfortable shoes. That's a good one. If you know that you are going to be judging a lot, I would seriously look into getting some of those like Dr. Scholl's or whatever, the orthotics that fit in your shoe. I would definitely, they're kind of expensive, but if you consider how many times you're going to use them and how big of a difference it makes throughout the day, I would definitely say that they're worth it for me. You definitely, be advised to look at that investment if this is something you want to be doing a lot.
Comment on writing on your comment. If you're gonna start insoles in your shoes, try them out for a week before you do an event. Don't start with the insoles on the day of the event. Not a good idea.
And
This is also on the comfortable shoes. If you have a tendency to get blisters, this is an old Army trick. I use it at every GP that I go to. Black pantyhose. The little small ones. They're slick. They slide real nice and easy, and they will prevent you from getting blisters on your heels and on your insoles. We used to wear those in our Army boots. You can make fun all you want, but I don't get blisters, and they're very comfortable, and they don't add a lot of extra heat, for having to pack.
that is actually the first time I've heard that tip. That's a good one.
Alternatively, have 2 pairs of shoes and change them out in the middle of the day.
Socks is a really good one.
Socks is a really good one to do without socks. Like, change your socks and shoes in the middle of the day. It's fine. The more judges do it, then you
Another
believe
reason
it.
to have a bag.
Yeah, another reason to have a bag. Alright, so that's good. Any final thoughts on stuff that you would want to have or stuff that you would like to bring? Alright, excellent. So finally, some stuff throughout the day. So let's talk a little bit about competitive rel. right? So one of the biggest differences between competitive rel and regular rel is that there's penalties. So that's probably the biggest difference as far as stuff that you're going to be doing with rel differences. So you want to know how to write the penalties down. If you don't know how to do that, then at the beginning of the day, you can go to the scorekeeper and ask them how they want to do it. Ordinarily, I tell you how to do it, but since we're in the middle of rolling out with the new Walter, it seems like every GP I've gone to, they've had a different way that the scorekeeper wants me to do it. So I'm just going to tell you to ask them. The traditional way, the way that it kind of seems to be settling down onto, is to have the table number as the first thing you list, and then the player name, and then the judge name, and then what infraction they committed, and then what penalty you gave them, and then a brief set of description about this penalty. So that's kind of what it seems to be settling in on. Again, get the specific setup from your scorekeeper to get the actual correct. Yes. Go to the YouTube video and get it off of there. It is going to be the I'll say it again just for posterity's sake to make sure we got it. It's going to be the table number and then the player name and then your name and then the thing that they did wrong, such as a game rule violation or a deck list problem, and then the penalty that you gave them, such as a warning or a game loss, and then a brief set of notes. So that was what it was last week at GP. Well, again, talk to the scorekeeper because it changes, and like all the scorekeepers now have their own way, and they're all like, I'm sure that they have like their own forum where it's like they're fighting with each other over what they want the standard to be. But be flexible. Again, it's not a big deal to change stuff like that up. And if you have to enter in 100 penalties every couple of rounds, you want to make it easier on those people because they.
That's also something that you could write down in your notepad.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great
scorekeeper, how do you want to do it, and then you write out a fake one. Put number, table here in the order that they want.
Yeah. So some brief outline of the note. When you write the note is for what actually happened that caused you to give this person a penalty. And there's kind of a sweet spot. You don't want to have too little detail, but you don't want to have too much. The purpose of this is so that the scorekeeper can type it in, and when it goes into the penalty database, then if they need to review that at some future period, they'll have an idea of what types of infractions this player has committed. Because the whole purpose of entering the penalties into the penalty database is that if someone commits the same penalty again and again and again, we want to have a chat with them to make sure that they aren't intentionally committing these infractions again and again and again. Cheaters can and do get caught by exactly that. So make sure you have enough detail and you don't have too much detail, so the scorekeeper is going to yell at you, for having to write the penalty down. So, like for example, if someone casts like Supreme Verdict without double white, cast Supreme Verdict without double white was probably what I would write down. I wouldn't write down something like cast spell for wrong mana because I feel like that's a little too vague, and I wouldn't write down something like when the player casts Supreme Verdict, they didn't tap 2 white mana sources instead of, and therefore did not have the correct mana. So you don't need complete sentences here, just enough to make sure that people who are reading this have an idea of what happened. There are some people who say you shouldn't put card names down on this. That is partially correct. You shouldn't put card names on it if it would give information away. If both players have seen the card that's in question, then you can write the card name down. But do not do a deck check on someone and say player was playing 4 Swords of Plowshares and only registered 3. Right? Because then what's going to happen is the opponent is going to read the penalty, which they have every right to do, and they'll be like, oh, looks like Op's playing a white deck with Swords of Plowshares. Well, that is what you're avoiding That's what you're trying to avoid when people say don't put card names on the board. You want to put card names that both people know because it makes it specific enough, but you don't want to give information away where it wasn't already available. So that's good. That's good. Any other questions on how penalties work? Yes.
Just to make sure you're writing something.
Yes, you write that on the back, and then on the front you're going to write like a W or a GL or something to tell the scorekeeper that they should turn it over and read the back because there's something written on the back. At the end of that interaction, you're also going to write the time extension. The time extension is going to go on the front of that sheet. Good question. Good question. Anything else?
On the time extension thing too, if you're giving one with somebody else who's given one previously,
Yes.
strike it out, write a new total that includes both.
Yeah, that's less ambiguous.
It's a decimal.
Alright, so that is going to be for penalties. The other thing that you might not be as familiar with if you've judged mostly store level events before is working in teams. Right? So at GPs and SCGs and other really big tournaments, you're going to have a team structure. And the way that works is this. There isn't going to be, just one head judge and one associate judge who are doing all the stuff themselves. You're going to break all the judge staff into teams, and each team is going to be responsible for certain things that need to get done. So for example, you're going to have the paper team. The paper team is going to be in charge of handing out the slips, the result slips, and posting the pairings at the beginning of every round. You're going to have the deck checks team. They're in charge of doing deck checks and making sure that all the deck lists get collected and not lost and are easily able to get accessed. You're going to have the logistics team. Generally, they're going to be responsible for doing an end of round procedure, so making sure that all the result slips get turned in at the end of the round in a systematic way, and also taking care of any logistical types of issues that show up throughout the day, such as distributing product at sealed tournaments. You're going to have a breaks team sometimes. The breaks team would be the people who take over when one of the other teams goes on break. So don't worry, you aren't going to be working 12 straight hours with nothing. You will have at least the practice is generally there's going to be 1 hour-long break somewhere in the middle of the day, and then 1 half-hour-long break towards the end of the day. That's what the general standard that's kind of evolved was. Again, this is one of those things that's way better now than it has been at some points in the past of the judge program, where you literally would be working like 16-hour days with no breaks. And boy, oh boy, I'm glad that we got away from that. So, and then there's going to be side events. If it's going to be a big enough event that there's judge teams, there's probably going to be side events, and one of the teams, or at least a couple of the judges, is going to be responsible for handling all the side event type stuff. So, what team are you on? Well, it'll say in one of those forum posts that I alluded to earlier in the presentation, and you'll have a team leader who's a very experienced judge whose responsibility will be making sure that all the people on his or her team are familiar with their responsibilities and have all the information that they need to carry those responsibilities out. So that is how the judge division of labor is going to be at a larger event like a GP. So be familiar with what your responsibilities are and make sure you message your team lead if you have any doubts about that. So that is
the schedule.
Yes.
It's just in your things you do before you leave and things you do while you're there. Always double check the schedule.
Yeah, they definitely can and do change that stuff at the last minute, so I would always look like the night before at least, just in case they might have assigned you to a different your call time will also be listed there. Some bigger events are going to have shifts, so it'll say like the AM judges are supposed to show up at this time, and the PM judges are supposed to show up at this time, and that helps keep everybody at high energy throughout the day because you don't have to work the entire 16 hours that stuff is happening. You just have to work the first 12 or the last 12. Yes.
Speaking of call times, try to be on time and budget like 15 to 20 minutes to find where the hall is in the convention center.
And parking.
And parking and all those other things. finding the hall is often a very large struggle at some of the larger convention centers, like Indianapolis, for example. You have to be like, what hall are we in, and having to find it can be obtained. Budget and time for that.
Early is on time is late.
Yeah.
Mr. Temple believes in that, and he lives by that motto. You will too.
So, any other questions about things that are specific to competitive rel or larger tournament operation?
Getting a beat.
Yeah, excellent. So if you are in an event with lots of judges, then there will be one head judge whose word is law for rulings. And so you can get appeals if you deliver a ruling to the players on the floor. The players have the right to appeal your ruling to the head judge or one of the appeals judges. And don't take it personally when stuff like that happens. It's just something that is a procedure that's in place to make sure that the players they have a mechanism if there's a ruling that they don't agree with. And so it happens to everybody. Everybody gets appealed, and don't get disheartened if the head judge overturns the ruling that you made and gives a different one instead. There are a lot of things in policy that the judgment calls, and there are a lot of things that the head judge is going to have knowledge or information or experience that shows that this might be a better way to handle it or a more closely conforming way to policy. So yeah, excellent point.
Or if you have a
Anything else before we move on to our wrap up? Yes?
With appeals.
Because sometimes
Next week I'll bring you
so you want to
get like upset or irritated at what they appealed for. For example, I was once appealed over what trample does.
Yeah, it's really amazing. My funniest appeal was I had a player who had a Gideon emblem that you can't lose the game as long as Gideon is in play emblem, and his opponent appealed my ruling that that player didn't lose the game when they were unable to draw a card. So that's how it works, and I knew that was how it works. But the players do have that right to have their head judge look at this, listen to the so that's
Speaking of, how do you feel about telling players that they have the right to appeal whenever you make
my personal opinion on that is I don't say it if it looks like both of the players are happy with the ruling or going to accept the ruling, but if it looks like one of the players is visibly dissatisfied, I will subtly look into that possibility, and that is something that I do. Now, James,
I love that, and I will do that. But some head judges will tell you, do not offer appeals. Never offer appeals. So if you know the head judge, like Lynn's, for example, is one that, is he even judging more? I haven't seen him in a long time, but he does not want you offering appeals. Other head judges want you to do that. So know your head judge.
Alright, so just some wrapping up thoughts here. First and most important thing is to stay well rested, well hydrated, and well fed throughout the day. Taking care of yourself is something that you need to do in order to make sure you're taking good care of everybody else. You can't do a good job if you're dehydrated or tired or hungry. And those are the sort of things that people are very poor, they tend to be very poor at gauging how much those things affect their performance. So stay on top of those things, and that should be your first thing. Don't be a hero. Don't be like, oh, I don't need to have a break this round. That is a very popular attitude for a lot of judges to have. Do not have that attitude. And then finally, some fun stuff for after the event. So one of the biggest kind of traditions that I like, that has been a part of the judge program since at least when I started being a judge, is there will typically be some sort of a judge dinner afterwards, where a bunch of the judges will go to dinner and talk about how stuff went and enjoy each other's company. If you've never been to one of those, I definitely recommend giving it a shot because it is a great place for some networking and is a great time with a lot of your friends in a Magic-related setting, and that tends to be a great thing to have at the end of spending some time with people in a Magic-related setting for several hours before that. And finally, once you get home, if you have taken notes, go ahead and try to write a review for people. That is a really valuable thing, giving feedback to your team lead, to your team members, to your head judge, to somebody on the event that helped. I guarantee that there is someone in the event that you saw do stuff that warrants an appeal. A lot of people will think like, well, I don't have enough material to. And if you don't have, if you literally can go an entire tournament without having any stuff that sticks out to you at all about one person in particular, then, I mean, that's never happened to me. So I'm certain that it's not going to happen to you. If you don't think that it's enough, that doesn't matter. Just write there's a great article called Flash Feedback, where they talk about just writing a short review that only talks about one or two specific interactions. And that's a great way to get started if you don't have live experience. So the final and most important thing, be sure you have fun. Judging is a lot of fun. Be sure you have fun. All this other stuff is great, but if you don't have fun, then you're not going to have enough incentive to want to go back. So that is all of the material that I prepared for everybody today. At this point, I'm going to ask any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback that you might have. Advance those at this time.
And if you get, when did you start judging?
So I started judging approximately 4 years ago, I want to say. I was doing judging stuff a lot before that. My rules knowledge was already, like, it was very high from the first time when I started playing Magic. And I definitely did organization kind of stuff before I entered the judge program. So for example, when I was in college, I organized a draft every week with a lot of my college friends. And so I didn't actually certify for becoming a judge until about 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere in there. And then I made my L2 probably about 6 months later, I want to say. Yes.
Besides the don't be a hero thing, there's been cases of an L3, I will not state who had to go to the hospital for IV hydration.
Oh, yeah.
Being so dehydrated because he didn't drink enough water that day. So don't go to the hospital because you were dehydrated and didn't drink enough water throughout the day. He didn't have a water bottle, and he said, "Oh, I'll just go back to the water fountain and go drink." And yeah, he ended up in the hospital needing IV hydration. Don't be that guy.
Very, very sage advice, man. Don't put yourself in the hospital to judge.
Well, it was an L3. An L3 did that.
Everybody does stuff like this.
Don't be
that guy.
Don't be that guy.
It's sometimes hard to recognize you're going to be dehydrated.
Yeah,
You're
it's
doing
exactly
a lot more
right.
walking than normal.
Yeah, like for me, certainly this is more walking than I do on a Saturday, and it's more activity than I do. And again, like I said, it is very difficult to gauge how much your performance is getting affected by things like dehydration and fatigue. Very difficult. So really the only good strategy is to stay on top of those things from the get-go. Any other questions or comments?
Preparation-wise, what's the worst amount you've ever done?
Like the worst amount of preparation, like the least amount of preparation? Well, I'll tell you guys a secret. Once you get to be like, you know, past a certain amount of experience, you don't need to intentionally prepare anymore. So, for example, I have like a bag that has all my stuff in it. So I don't have to like think about all the stuff that I'm going to bring. I just bring the bag. My rules and policy knowledge is generally at a high enough level that I don't need to intentionally review that before the event starts. So
Legendary, right?
So I don't know, like, is that the same thing for other experienced L2s?
I think you get more practice, so
I
you have
definitely
to do
do.
less.
Yeah, I practice more normally. Like, for example, I read through the IPG just this week when I was publishing my new set digest article. So, like, you know, that's, if you study throughout your career, then you don't have to study, like, you know, you don't have to cram if you study all the way through the semester. It's that same kind of idea.
But for prep work, other things, take care of yourself before the event starts.
Yeah.
Make sure you eat breakfast before you show up. Be a good idea. Make sure you get enough sleep the night before. Don't be like some judges that go, I don't know, I'm gonna wake up at 3 a.m., drive 5 hours, then judge it, and then be on my feet all day for a Grand Prix. Not a good idea.
Yeah, I
Don't
think
do that.
3 hours, I think, is my cutoff. My personal cutoff is about 3 to 4 hours of how long of a drive I'm going to be willing to do before the call time of an event. So once you have more experience, you'll be in a better position to know what your personal number is going to be. But that's a good place to start. That's where I am.
Would you encourage most L1s to apply to larger events?
Yes, my personal opinion is there's 2 really compelling reasons that I would cite for me to say that, yeah, if you're an L1 and you're the tiniest bit interested, go ahead and apply. Number 1 is the first and most important one. You don't know what you're going to like until you try it. I did not think that I was going to like judging when I started judging. I did not do any store level or local events. I just went straight to judging SCGs, and I had to convince myself to try out PTQs. And right now I am one of the guys who judges the most PPTQs in our region, and it's because I eventually branched out of my comfort zone and I tried it, and I like that too, so it's great. So that's the first thing. You're not going to know what you like until you try it, so you might as well try it out. The worst thing that can happen is you get a no, and that's fine too. You can try that out at some point in the future. The judge program is really great about giving opportunities to people who are serious about getting opportunities. The second thing that I want to cite is that a lot of people think, well, I don't think I'm really ready to do like a big competitive event. And my counter argument to that is, I don't think that I've ever really been ready for anything the first time I've done it. That's pretty much how it works. In the judge program, there's so much unknown factors at a big tournament that nobody's really going to be 100% prepared. So the system is, you go in when you're like maybe 80 to 90% prepared, because you're going to learn the last 10 or 20% a whole lot faster and a whole lot more effectively by actually doing it than you are from studying and trying to prepare more and trying to show up and be a hotshot. Because nobody's going to show up experienced. That's not how it works.
On your my first 2 big events were Origins and Gen Con, which are not competitive per se. We have competitive events there, but it's a little bit more laid back. You get to meet a lot more people. But those were my first 2, and it was like the difference between that and doing like a Star City was so huge. I was like, because everything was laid back at Gen Con, and then I went into the Star City, and I was like, there's a lot of people here. This is all very. But I found out I love doing ODEs.
Alright, anyone else have anything else that they'd like to add? Alright, well, thanks a lot, everyone. This has been a great, this is my first